Ooh, it. I have something playing. Am I hearing myself? Anyways, welcome to the Game Changing Work Show. Today, we have some hot and spicy good stuff. We have a special guest. Ashley is in the house.
Hey.
And we are talking about the top 5 skills for what companies are looking for today, which obviously is going to take us down some rabbit holes and some interesting topics because we can't help ourselves.
Like as usual.
So we're going to go ahead and get started on those skill sets companies. You know what? I didn't do a visual. Did you create a visual?
Of course, I didn't create a visual. We have a guest and we won't have enough time for this discussion. I know. So there you go. Okay. So I wanted to start by saying we have absolutely the right guest for today's discussion with Ashley, because she wrote a book that is called Empowering Differences, and it's an amazing book. And I just skimmed through it, and it's just so profound, and it has so many things that make you think differently. And we're going to talk about her book towards the end of the show, so stay with us. But welcome, Ashley. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here. I'm glad to bring my lens of empowerment and talk about how being different is an amazing concept into solving problems. So I'm excited. We're going to connect the dots today.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, I am talking about this tonight, so I actually do have a slide if we do want a visual, because it is tapping into. But we can start with the first one. We can just go off the cuff because I have this guide for me. Is critical thinking.
Woohoo. And actually, you know what? I was getting, because we were talking about the top 5 skills, and it was the first one that came out was critical thinking. And there are a lot of companies looking for critical thinking workshops, courses, seminars, whatever it is, because they start to grasp the importance of what this means for their business and for their organization for moving forward. So what do we mean when we say critical thinking? What does that mean?
I have a coaching client. She is a teacher. And this kind of opens up where I know, Ashley, you're going to put some 2 cents in here. Fabulous 2 cents. Is that she said, we want to teach the kids how to think for themselves. And so when we talk about critical thinking, it's not just critical thinking and more of it's about the exterior or the things that we have to do that has nothing to do with yourself. Because the best type of critical thinking is when it is how you think personally, uniquely about your thoughts. Because if you are assimilating and only thinking as in what I call group thinking, you are missing the point of the secret sauce with critical thinking. Mm-hmm. So what say you, Ashley?
Critical, when you break down these 2 words, right? Critical means it's really important. You need to look at things and very holistically look at things in the way not only the world sees you, but how you see the world. And so really this book, to me, it boils down to how you access education, and how you utilize all the tools that are at your disposal in this world, which is, there's so much information and it's so readily available now. But I really love what you were saying around, almost kind of categorizing the world, right? And for me, this really aligns really well to really kind of step 1 and 2 of empowering your differences is really about creating the ability for you to know yourself. And step 2 is knowing others. And those 2 things are so critical. You cannot move in your journey. You cannot move in your career. You cannot have an organization want you to grow in your career without doing those two things right. And you have to invest the time and energy to do a full accountability, conduct an actual self-assessment.
Yeah.
It's
No,
gonna
I
make a
love
huge
that.
impact.
That's great. Now we have some viewers. I don't know. Let me see where they are coming from. But those of you that are watching the show,
Yeah.
I can always see who's on LinkedIn. But get on the chat, get your comments. You know, if you have any thoughts around what we're diving into right now. So the first one was critical thinking, and what Ashley said. It's about you, and also that thinking with others. So it's an inclusive type, right? It's the singular I and the we.
And
Yeah.
you know what I'm going to say here? It's a lot of emotional intelligence that is involved in critical thinking. I mean, and the whole point of this is I find that we all want quick fixes. And when we talk about critical thinking and when we talk about, oh, give me a critical thinking something so I can learn how to critically think. It doesn't work this way. I mean, there is no recipe. There are no 10 steps to critical thinking. It's exactly as Ashley said. You need to start with yourself, that kind of self-assessment that then helps you understand others as well. Because how can you understand others if you don't get yourself, if you don't know yourself? And that's a lot of emotional intelligence right there, because it starts with self-awareness and self-management. That is the key, and that is no quick path.
Exactly. And as we dive into these skill sets, I'm going to just do a preface. All of them require mindset. Okay. You can't, it's like the engine that powers the wheels, right? Think of the wheels being the skill sets, but the engine is you as a person. And what are the stories? What are the things? What are the, going on as you as a person? So it's essential to have everything connected together, right? We are very complex humans. So when we get into this critical thinking and we're talking about that subject, now we're going to get even deeper when we talk about cognitive flexibility. Ooh, that's a fancy word. Cognitive flexibility. It's like I feel like I want to get my glasses on and be the professor.
Hold on, I have them. Okay.
Oh, there we go. All right, we're in gear now. Now I'm feeling the mood.
Wait, are we doing glasses? I'm ready.
I know.
Awesome. Ooh, yours are fancy, Ashley. Come on.
All right, so here's my only glasses, and I'm just gonna say I see the world in a very colorful way.
Yes.
Talk about critical thinking and flexibility. I think, because you both have sunglasses and it gives you some colors that you perceive the world through, which is interesting. Talk about, critical thinking, because you see things from different perspectives. Okay.
Well, but you know what? And honestly, another piece here is that in this world of being virtual, you have to be able to, there's only so many opportunities that you have to be able to stand out. And if you're not really thinking about that critically and planning in advance around how you're going to stand out in that virtual meeting or how you're going to capture somebody's attention, if you don't have props ready for when you're having a conversation, then you weren't thinking critically about it.
Yeah, and being cognitively flexible it's almost like they need each other, right? And I think that all of these, once we go through, they're almost like a build upon. It's almost like a package deal, right? It's almost like a meal where you need all the elements to actually have a great dinner, right? You have maybe your veggies, you might have a little protein, and cognitive flexibility. In order to, I personally, and I'll just say my biased opinion of, you have to have that flexibility in order to think better critically, right? Because that ability gives you the 10 times fold capabilities of your uniqueness, your superpower. You have to channel in there.
So as you were saying that, I was thinking that we can actually combine critical thinking with flexibility and call it flexible thinking rather than critical thinking.
Oh my God, I'm writing that down. We always come up with new words.
Yeah. But it's just because flexible thinking grasps the whole concept of it. I don't know about you, Ashley, but because critical sometimes tends to sound too limiting, and it's just maybe it makes people be confused about what it actually means. It's about not criticizing things, but in coming up with different perspectives and different ways of thinking about things. So, but I think with flexible thinking, that's pretty much embedded, and it lets you grasp the fullness of what that means. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. In short, I would definitely say that, when people start thinking cognitively, and they start, really, that's now that almost like I feel like that this is like bordering into the next step of empowerment in your journey. And it's like, how can I start to like be thinking strategically to put these things into action a little bit? And for me, the biggest thing that comes out of this moment would be the inclusion, that sense of belonging, right? And Veronica, you mentioned it, around, the everyone kind of having that mix, and the representation is important. But I really feel like that central core of inclusion, and we've seen so much happens, with social justice being pushed to the front, and marginalized communities being represented, and a lot of allies at the front of the discussion is really what's made this so different versus years in the past. Um, and I think that it's that inclusion, it's that feeling of belonging, it's the secret sauce, or that special recipe that happens when you get excited people who now can have their authenticity show, and they can feel like they're part of a group, and then it allows them to be so much more productive in the workplace environment. And creating that environment is everyone's responsibility on the team. It's not just the manager's responsibility. It's everybody's
Exactly. And I love how you're touching on that, because as human beings, right, I love history. And history always gets us to teach how our behavior, our nature, we want to have a sense of belonging. It's our human nature. We also tend to gather into groups, right? That's how cultures are created. And so even if you are somebody like myself that craves to be unique and what might have you, I still want sense of belonging. I still want to feel accepted and heard. I still love being around people. And it's more of starting to get to realize that you can be yourself, which is something that I used to talk about, that split identity when it comes to organizations, where personally who you are and professionally, if I want to do this and be on a show and show my shoulder, does that make me not feel like I'm not a professional or intelligent woman? That's my point, is that in the professional environment, we are felt that we have to be one identity, and then at 5 o'clock, we're someone else. And I'm sorry, but that shit needs to stop. Yes, I did. I said it. Because we have to start getting real. That's what's going to change and drive what you're mentioning, right, Ashley? Like, when is enough that we could just be whole. There's no difference, right? All personal, Roxana.
Well, but I think that the one thing that I would add to that too, though, is that, so human, you mentioned about human nature, right? Wanting to be together. Well, but it's also human nature in the way that we're built, is that quest for knowledge. Like, we really want to find out more about things that we don't know a lot about.
Oh, I love that. Curiosity. And the more that you embrace curiosity, which, by the way, I used to be a school teacher, and I would have like subjects that may not have been the biology class. Like I used to have them I had National Geographic Day every Wednesday because I wanted them to just remain curious. Because the more curious, right, creates more of that growth mindset and wanting to learn and to grow and stretch. I also love when we talk about the next one. God, I'm naturally leaning into these. I don't know why, but it's just happening. Is being comfortable with ambiguity, because growth only happens when you are getting uncomfortable. That's where change happens. And so, yeah, you might not know something. It's unclear. It might not make sense to you. You don't understand it. But be curious, because that's the part of the process of growth.
Yeah. And also, as you are using your curiosity, be mindful to do your research and put in the work. Like, don't expect it to just be handed to you.
Exactly. And that kind of is our last bullet point, right? Of being a self-starter and independent. And it's one of the things too that I loved when I was a teacher about being intuitive. I always said, you know what? Don't take what's just in front of you. You need to be a seeker. Because seekers is what creates success. Because you can interview anybody that's successful out there, right? And you can deem whatever you think is successful, an athlete, whoever, somebody that, on a business, whoever you admire. If you probably asked them, they are naturally intuitive and seekers, to your point, Ashley. They didn't just let things just happen.
Seize control.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. And I think I was wondering, though, it's about, because we all know we don't like change. I mean, people don't like change. On the other hand, the only way we grow is through change. And the only way we learn is through trial and error. And if we look at including just this, if you think about just this trial and error and how much it is accepted in organizations, in companies, or how much it has been accepted so far. Talk about flexibility and curiosity and experimenting. These are crucial elements right now. But if you're not ready to accept, and not just to accept because you say you're accepting, but to allow, to create the environment where trial and error is actually the norm, there is no way you're going to get the amount of flexibility which boosts creativity, innovation, and all of that good stuff that you're looking for, because you want critical thinking, but you want critical thinking that fits the old mold where you're not allowed to have errors. You have to nail it the first time round. It's like, how do babies learn how to walk, right? They just get up and walk all of a sudden and they do it and they're good at it? I don't think so.
And that kind of goes back to the cognitive, right? Remember, the theme mindset is really related to all of these. And so cognitive flexibility, being comfortable, ambiguity is what you believe. What are the stories that you tell yourselves, right? Do you have limiting beliefs that is holding you back to be able to be flexible to do something different? Or you're so uncomfortable with what you don't know because something is telling you I'm just going to say insecurity, because that's where limiting beliefs lie, is I'm not good enough. I don't want to look a certain way. A lot of organizations, how many of you out there spent 3 hours on a PowerPoint to make it fabulous for a 5-minute meeting?
Longer, exactly.
Yeah. That is what I mean.
Yeah.
What drives us to act that way if I was running a business, right? And these are happening internally, not like you're showing a customer, right? So we're talking about internal things that we have to do to run our business, that I would rather see the results happen of the time that you spent, like actually doing something that's going to result, than a pretty PowerPoint.
Interestingly enough, when I think about these first three topics that we've really dived in here quickly, I kind of almost sum them up all in one statement. Are you ready for this one?
Oh yeah, bring it on.
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly,
Exactly.
when you think about everything
Yeah.
that you're working through, you want to be thinking critically, then that means you need to start being uncomfortable. Like literally, you just need to be uncomfortable. If you are
Yeah.
uncomfortable with everything that's going on, then that's a good thing, actually. And then that means you are flexible. And then it also means now that you're comfortable with the ambiguity because it won't matter. It won't matter where you stand out in the crowd because you will automatically stand out in the crowd. You will automatically grow your career. You will automatically be seen as someone that says, oh, I want to know more about that person. I want to know what they're up to. I want to know how they were able to grow their career so rapidly. All of those things are kind of packaged into this get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
Oh, exactly.
it's a concept that I talk about in my book a lot, but
Mhm.
it really helps people to really understand the importance of why inclusion, diversity, equity, all of these things really matter because they matter for the employer.
Exactly. And it's almost like you have to start practicing it. It's like riding a bike. If you haven't really done anything that is uncomfortable, it's going to be hard.
Mhm.
I kind of going in a pool or even in the beach where some people just jump in cold water, right? It's cold. You know how like when it gets to your belly, it's like well, and some people will just dive in and just like do it right away. Well, some people like to put their toe in, slowly work their way up to the belly where it's really cold, but it's all uncomfortable. However you approach it is my point. You still need to move forward because the goal is getting in the water.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I love this goal-oriented approach that you brought in because it's all related to that. And it's not just because somebody says so, but it's because I want to. Because I want to get in the water, not because my boss tells me, hey,
That's
get
how
in
it
the
works.
water. Right?
How many of you that are watching right now, how well does that really truly work? So we can go back to even as parents, right? I never listened to what my parents say unless I had to because I knew there was consequences. I mean, my father used to tell me I gave him his gray hair because he always had to rationalize a reason around it because I was the why kid. So what makes it different in an organization? That behavior doesn't change. People want to make decisions and have the freedom of choice that they're going to do something, because that is where change happens, is when you choose to do it.
Yeah, that's when accountability kicks in, and that's what we're pretty much talking about, especially when we talk about self-starters, because there you can't self-start anything if you're not self-accountable, and that's the trick. And I think that moving forward, but I think what we've seen with the crisis, I think this is what the crisis brought more of. People, because they were suddenly in this super uncomfortable state
Wow.
where they absolutely felt they had no control whatsoever anymore. And that was at the beginning. And then because you never knew when this thing is going to go away, if ever, then we needed to regain a sense of control. So people really started to look inward and see, okay, what can I do? Because I need it. I need some basis. I need some stability. What can I do to get myself some stability and not wait for stability to knock at my door? I think this is why we see a little bit of shift in mindset, as you said. And I think moving forward, this is what's going to help us think more creatively and be more flexible. I think we're pretty much the most flexible that we've ever been right now. I don't think we've ever, as human beings, I don't think we've ever been as flexible as we are right now.
Yeah, I think I agree. If like looking at history, and if we ever were, it's never the same. Even though they say
Yeah.
history repeats itself, it's never the same because we evolve
Yeah.
in how we are in our culture and societies. And I love, I'm going to empowering differences, channeling your Ashley, your title there, because we're really talking about that. And what you just described, Roxana, of what's happened with a lot of people, they, even if they may not even realize it, and this is me kind of seeing the potential in everyone and encouraging all of you. Some of you might say, yeah, you know what? I know that I became more of a powered individual from what has happened. And some people probably are doing things that they probably never realize. And so I'm talking to you as well, is that think of something that you had a challenge that this past year that you did something to get past it, which is our next subject on resiliency. And that's where I want to kind of challenge some of your thoughts, Ashley, around empowerment, because I think this is our moment also for those watching and then that will watch the replay is some encouragement of it's so possible. Everyone can do this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the empowerment comes in, between these two topics really, really well. It lives in this space between ambiguity and kind of moving past ambiguity and into kind of overcoming, right? Because resilience is all about overcome and how you're going to actually overcome everything that we've been overcoming. Like literally, it was like one thing after another, right, from the last year. And I mean, I want you to start thinking about the data, right? Because to me, I think the data is the biggest takeaway from the last year is how important the numbers are. If you don't have the numbers to go with the diversity or to go with your community, if you can't speak to your diverse community, then you're not going to be the one who's going to be problem solving. You're not going to be the one that's going to stand out in the crowd. You're not going to be the one to move forward. I know that for me, I've been using data-driven information to try to help create that change and to overcome these obstacles that we encounter. Because in my life, personally, I've been trying to overcome obstacles for more than 12 years. And how you actually really change someone's mind on inclusion or on hiring you or on promoting you, whatever the topic is of changing someone's mind, you have to bring it. You have to bring the information and the data. So oftentimes I would talk about the LGBTQ plus economy, and I would quote empowering statistics about the buying power, because you can find it for every single country, regardless of where you live. You can find out the information just by doing your due diligence and doing the work that we've been talking about throughout this. Like, you have to be able to put in the work. I mean, I know that this is all leaning up to our last topic as well, but have to put in the work. You have to find out the information, right? This goes back to thinking critically as well. It all ties together to really own your own empowerment. You can't empower your differences if you can't speak to it and put a number behind it.
I love that.
Love it. Yeah.
There was a podcast that I was listening to that a CEO, and maybe you know me, I can't remember names for the life of me, but there's a book that someone talks about, measuring everything, how you measure it or what might have you. Some, entrepreneur or CEO probably from Silicon Valley. And you are right about that, where you need subjective, right? And then you need the data to support some of that objectivity of things that we're talking about. And so that measurement allows two things. One is the validity, right? And then two is the feedback loop. Because if you're still trying to grow and evolve, that data kind of starts to help you question, are we moving in the way that we hypothesized, right? If you want to take a scientific approach to it, which I love, love that lean startup, that type of thinking where we have something that we think is going to happen, but how do we know that it actually, to validate that? And we have to have some way, qualitatively or quantitatively, some way to measure, knowing that one is what we thought is correct based on our assumptions, or learning how we can pivot and grow even further.
Exactly. Yeah, and how we can pivot and work differently so that we actually get there if what we're doing is not good for taking us to that end result that we're looking for. But I wanted to really stress this because I don't think about numbers a lot. I'm not. I mean, I don't. This
You
is
need to.
yeah, but that's why I wanted to come back to what you said about measuring and about looking at statistics and what all of the numbers mean, because that's what gives you the actual that helps you draw some conclusion of, has change happened? Is it happening? Are we on our way? And are we on the right way to get us there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we're talking about skills, what we've seen a lot of is where companies and people, they're looking to get some of these skills, to learn some of these skills, but then what? Because nobody measures progress. Nobody measures, how do you know that you're successful? How do you know the change has happened? And then that's why you made me think, how do we measure all of these things that we're talking about, right? Because we're talking about critical thinking, flexibility, everything.
And are we measuring the right things? Because
exactly.
A computer, right, can be really good at analytical thinking, but that's why the human element is also important. So that's where we need to combine both. Is no computer is going to allow you to reframe meaning of a problem. That requires human involvement in that. So it's the combination of both, where I've been in a lot of organizations, especially, being an agile coach in transformations, where people are highly analytical and only data driven, and they don't focus on the people element.
Yeah.
Well, and that is a huge, huge no-no in my head, where I'm like, you're missing the ball. Again, that's the where I call the integral thinking. They're more on the it and its, and not thinking of the I and the we about everything, because it's so easy to attach yourself to something data, because it's not about you. It's not about your problems. It's not about your insecurities. And so it's so important. We have to use both in when it comes to change and making innovative change.
Yeah. You connected everything around empowering differences here in this concept.
I didn't even know.
I guess you did pre-read a little bit of my book.
It's ESP. We're just connected souls, Ashley. Didn't you know
that? But yeah, I mean, so really it boils down to so the concept of empowering your differences is a 4-step process of empowerment. Step 1, know yourself. Step 2, know others. We talked about that earlier. Step 3 is now developing your strategy, because if you're not strategic about what you're doing, where you're doing it, how you're using the data that you found, right? How you're building the connections with people, right? Because you have to have equal parts heart and equal parts mind. And if you don't have equal parts of both those, you will not then have the enlightenment that's necessary to get somebody's light bulb to come on, to get them to see why they need you for that job, to get them to see why they need to promote you, or why they need to hire you, or why the company needs to have a program for you, or why that program needs to be created. Like, you name it, whatever the topic is, it's all relevant and it all ties together, because it's about connecting the dots.
Yep.
And then once you've done that and you've started to have enlightenment, which is one of those empowering actions that will really create change for others, you then pivot and you make it about other people. can't be about just you and growing your career. It needs to be about empowering others. And that's the fourth step of empowering differences, which is the empowering actions and how you use them, how you're smart about building those relationships, tracking the data from that, right? So if that in this virtual world, you have data, you know how many times, how many people are watching today, you know how many views you get after. All of that is data, and it's something that paints the story for the connectivity that you're making, the impact that you're making. And then what are you going to do? But then bring the human element to it, right? Talk about how it's changed someone's life. And then you have the inspiration, you have the motivation together with that. And that overcomes. That's what leads to actual real resilience in this era. It's the connecting of these dots and putting these concepts together.
And we'll use another word, which I know, Roxana, you know that I've been using this word a lot now, is authenticity. Conversation I had with a CEO, he said, a lot of times, and this is more going into your eye, Ashley, is that you'll have somebody that is a CFO that is really only caring about the finances of something, but you're a company that is trying to move forward and progress. Well, if you're only thinking about the bubble of your finances, it's being more authentic to looking at the we equation. And this is why having some common purpose, right, and being clear, so that connecting dots for if I'm a CFO, if I'm somebody in HR, if I am the CEO, or if I'm just the boots on the ground engineer, what is our connecting dots and pattern that we all have the same thing that we're striving to? But I'm the engineer and I care about the quality of the code. I am the CFO and I care about the finances because we got to keep the lights on. And I'm the CEO. I want to drive the vision, what I had for this company, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's that authentic that you come to the table that, yes, I care about what I need to do, but I also care about what we need to do. And again, that's going back to the I and the we.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the inclusion connects us all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And honestly, like you speak about all of these different roles in an organization, each of them inherently important. And as I talk to a lot of friends and and community leaders who are in the inclusion business, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, if you don't have those key stakeholders on your organization's inclusion council, then you could be potentially having a problem.
It's pretty much exclusive, right, Ashley, then?
Yeah. Like they have to be there. Your CFO, all the people you're talking about, your chief marketing officer, your talent acquisition leader, all of those leaders, they need to be part of the conversation for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. If they're not, then you have a problem.
Yeah, if they're not, you absolutely have a problem, because diversity, inclusion, equity, all of these things, they're not just, how we distinguish between the discussion about people and the discussion about business. So if that is not a business discussion, then it won't matter. If you don't have diversity, inclusion, included in the business discussion, in the business goals, the business focus, and everything that you are for as an organization, then they will only be nice to haves, and they will be side dishes. They won't ever make the main course, because they're not in that business conversation. And I've seen it happening, for instance, so many times with learning and development programs coming from that world, right? This is why transformation, development, and this is why that doesn't really happen, because they're not connected to the business goals and to the mission and to the vision. What do we stand for here? Who are we? And how do we make this happen? It's not embedded in the culture. So unless you have this discussion and you make it a business discussion, because here's why I'm saying this. If people don't feel that they make an impact and that they contribute, the best that they can in the organization. And that means understanding that they're appreciated for what they do. They will never, ever feel included, no matter how much you talk to me about inclusion. Because if I don't feel it, I will not feel included either. If I don't feel I'm giving my best and I have the chance to give my best, I'm making the impact that is appreciated and helpful.
And it happens all the time. And a family discussion.
Right?
Discussion and the kids involved. It's only So we can take this and give an examples that are out there in many things. We can watch it in the movie. Like say a family mob group, right? I'll just use even that. How all the people, the heads get together so they can make a decision together. There's a reason why we practice this in all different groupings. As I can't find the best word. We do it, so it's always a family thing. Right? Even like mob family, they say it's a family. Well, and then your own personal, it's a family. What makes it different in a business? It's a family. And when you exclude someone from the family, what typically happens with that person?
They get ostracized. They don't want to be involved. They're not going to show up. Literally, it's all these things.
Yeah. They're not going to care. That's the thing. That's the risk. And the thing is, when you get people to care, that's when you get accountability. That's when you get the self-starter thing and all of the you want people who contribute. You want people who are proactive. Well, that's how you encourage them to be proactive, because if they're going to care about what they do, about the result, about how they can contribute, about you as a family, they will be proactive. Right?
I'm just going to state the obvious, that if you probably talk to a lot of people that are head of companies and ask them how they run their family, do they do that? Right? Or they don't. But you can't tell me there's not someone in the mix that does. And my point is, they know exactly the benefits of doing it. So what makes it different? Why aren't we taking this into organizations? Again, we're separating that split identity between personal and companies, and that's the flaw.
Yeah, well, that and the diversity and inclusion, equity and belonging and all of those programs oftentimes are somewhat pigeonholed into being an HR deliverable.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not valued. They don't look at it as
a business revenue generating mission.
Exactly.
And to tell you the truth, like the most favorite thing that I get to do on a day-to-day basis is talk to sales teams. I love being able to connect with my sales teams, and I have a sales background as well. So I just sell inclusion now. So it's a little bit different, but still it's the same connectivity. And really, honestly, that's like why the subtitle byline of my book is leveraging your differences to impact change. I mean, you have to be able to utilize your differences as a strategic advantage instead of hiding it. I could have hid in job interviews and not been my authentic self, but I decided to show up, stand up, be bold, be tall, be proud, wear my heels, rock my outfit, and just be me. And if an organization didn't want me for me being fully me, then they didn't see the financial benefit. And maybe that at first might have been my fault for not communicating it. And then learning that you have to fight through to communicate that financial value is the real game-changing problem-solving mission.
I love how you put that together, because we are all, and I always say the cause and effect is we're always at cause to what we do. And you can't change what other people do, but you have the ability to make your own path. So if I had to think about my own personal brand, for example, I would want to make sure exactly what you said, Ashley, is I did everything I could to ensure that I am being the best version to sell myself, my brand, and show the value that I have. And I think everyone out there, if you haven't really thought about it, now's the time to do it, because 2020 is a wake-up call. And I loved and I talk about this because I did the Tony Robbins 5-day New World Challenge. Is he talked about creating your own economy on day 3. It is the time to get serious about creating your own economy. And that's about your value and your value proposition, and also up leveling to make sure that you have marketable, valuable skills to be able to take into the future of what people are looking for. You are at cause for that. No one else.
You have to self-start it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, that's so true. And Veronica knows I love this expression of hers with "you're at cause," because that's basically it, and it captures pretty much everything. But I also think that when it comes to knowing your value, you have to know the value that you bring from different perspectives as well. So know what you're bringing anywhere that you're going. And I remember when I was having the my L&D team that I was heading at some point, and we had our short meetup at some point, and I asked them, look, are you interviewing right now in other organizations for the role that you're currently having or for another role? And they were like, what do you mean? Are you crazy? We work with you. We work in the same organization. Why would we be interviewing? And I said, why not? Because that gives you, and that also gives you a different perspective of what you have to offer, what other companies are asking from a role that's similar to yours. And if you're not there, what can you do to get there? What are some skills that you can get to get there? So it's like having this, even if you're not interviewing necessarily, but just think about if you were to have an interview tomorrow for the job that you're already having, what would you say? And what would be the assets that you're bringing, and how would you be talking about that? Because here's the thing, when we get comfortable in the role that we have, we're not selling this internally either.
Yep.
To the internal clients. And that's when they don't take us seriously, because if you're not in the sales team that can show the numbers and the figures, you have intangible benefits that you're bringing. If you don't know how to express them and you don't know what those are, then you're lost, because you're basically just a head count.
Yeah, and it's now's the time. This is a wake-up call. See, now I've been a serial job jumper because I got bored, and that's why I became independent. So I was really good at figuring that out, of my value. And I still discover it. And you know what? I fall flat on my face because sometimes I don't get it right. I get feedback and I keep trying. But that's the whole point. And that goes into being a self-starter is I need to initiate it. I'm at cause. And this goes back to everyone, and I'm going to channel what you said, Ashley, is getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because this is the whole point. You have to do something about that. And I recommend everyone go on the job boards, look at jobs out there, look what they're even asking for. I even recommend people go apply at jobs, even if you're not planning on leaving your job, and go on an interview, because you're probably rusty.
Exactly.
Look what happened to a lot of people that might have lost their jobs this past 2020 because they were like, oh my God, I've never been on it. I never looked at my resume. Like I had someone that I'm helping recently about her resume. She hasn't looked in one in 16 years. That's my point.
Yeah.
We have to stop with that mentality. That's old, passé.
Yeah.
At every single moment of every single day, you should be interviewing for your job. Treat every day as if it is your last day on that employment, and every day as if it is your first day. So that way you're seeking out the new knowledge, but you're also fighting to compete every single day. When you're in that interview mindset, you're going to be fighting to compete. You're going to be bringing that self-starting initiative to what you're bringing in this conversation. I have a couple of notes around self-starter here that I
okay. Go ahead.
Some Ashley nuggets here. Ashley
All right, bring the nuggets. Bring the nuggets. Woohoo!
So when you're in this self-starter mode, make sure that you realize that that you utilize 2 of my 10 empowering actions to leverage change, right? So we're in part 4 of the book.
Yeah.
And those 2 I really want you to think about that are going to help you in the self-starter space is, one is access, the foundational concept of access and how you have access strategically to others. Like you have to fight for that. No one's going to hand you the key to the boardroom. Like you have to fight for that. I fought for that access, to have that access to executives. So you have to own the access to key sponsors to help you grow in your career as a self-starter. The person who has the most sponsors at the end of the day is the one that is going to win that promotion. They're going to be the one to win the job race. So have more sponsors than someone else. And then the other one is invest. And in this world of finances, obviously we could be talking about financial investments, but really just invest in general, the foundational concept of invest, which is pouring resources into yourself or others. Yeah. Invest in things that are going to help you self-start. It's going to make an impact. So those things are going to be really impactful. And then remember that everything that we've been talking about, right? The being comfortable, getting uncomfortable, all of this work, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. We've used so many buzzwords today. Remember that all of that goes right back to you and your ability to self-start it, which leads to leadership. Yep. All of this rolls to leadership, and how you display your leadership capabilities, skill sets, and command is going to be the difference maker for all of this conversation.
Leadership starts within. And if you can't lead yourself, how can you do anything else with other people?
Exactly. You can't.
you have to believe in your own leadership of how you lead yourself. Yeah. Right? And then and that goes to your belief and how you believe in yourself. And so, it's all about, one of the things I love to talk about is the coactive leadership that the coactive coaching has, because they talk about those elements. And one of them is leading within. And you can't lead beside, you can't lead in front, you can't lead behind, right? Unless you start with yourself. And that is personal transformation of what you started out in the beginning, is knowing yourself.
And that is when you also feel like a leader. I mean, how many times have you seen leaders who have the title, but don't necessarily behave like a leader, and they don't feel like a leader? I was talking to a lot of people who were on the verge of their promotion to executive level, and I was talking to them, to help them prepare for the conversation and everything. And I said, well, look, so you want to be this person, you want to be these executives. And a lot of them were like, I don't want to get promoted because I'm scared. I'm not ready. They want to promote me, but I'm not ready. So if you don't, that's it. If you feel you're not ready, do something to get yourself ready for that. If that's
and it's all usually in here.
You feel it. It is. And another thing that happens, and I know that we don't have much time left, is that just for companies to also know that, hey, you can't just promote people because they've been there for a long time. And now it's time to get them promoted because you think you're going to motivate them that way. Sometimes that can be a scary thing for those people because they might not want to get promoted. But
and I'm going to put the disclaimer. I'm going to put this disclaimer just because you know how I am about this, is that you do not have to have a management role to be a leader.
Exactly.
It never happened my entire life, and it never stopped me from my success.
Yeah.
So leadership has nothing to do with being a manager.
Yeah,
you can be a leader in your personal life. You can be a leader in companies. It's more about how you believe in yourself, how you grow and try to be the best version of yourself, and how you inspire others to be better as well.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so because
that's like a teacher talk. Did I just come out? Like, did that teacher come out in me when I said that?
Yes.
Can you tell I was a high school teacher?
But like, I feel the world needs good teachers right now, and you know, why not? I love it when you get into this teaching mode.
I can be I can be your teacher. It's part of my bundle offer, actually.
Okay, so talking about it, yeah.
So
good
let's close up with Ashley's.
Yes.
Ashley's.
So we've been talking a lot about empowering differences, right? Your key to growing your leadership for yourself and others. This book is your part of your mission, and so I've created a special price point. If you go to my website, empoweringdifferences.com/bundle offer, you can get the book. You can also then get the workbook, the 10 empowering actions. This is kind of taking you all down that path that I was talking about today, which is really great at the beginning, is that actual self-assessment we were talking about. And it's fantastic because it really takes you into the ground rules on the self-assessment and how you can utilize and categorize yourself and grow your career, which is fantastic. And then there's also a leadership development course that I create at the 10 empowering differences, the 10 empowering actions to leverage change. You can get the course and the workbook and the book together as a bundled package on my website. That's a actual signed copy book that I can send in the US. And then if you're not in the US, you can still go to my website and you can purchase the bundle upgrade, which is you see it's one click below that. And that'll give you digital download for the course, the workbook, and then you can go to the book and you can buy the ebook right from my website as well, which will give you the PDF, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love it when because you combine the book and the workbook and the course, so it's like it's more the holistic approach to learning and learning how to.
Yeah,
and the course is really fun. Yeah, the course is really fun. You get the 11 coffee chats with Ashley. So
well, see,
so I'll be empowering you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the sweet deal there. So let's repeat that and make sure everyone heard about the coffee chats with Ashley, because that's the human element that's going to make that bundle offer, right?
Yes.
Be really spectacular, as I'm going to call it.
It is. It is.
So go and check it out. There's the website, empoweringdifference.com, bundle offer. And I hope that all of you enjoyed Ashley that's on the show. Comment, and if you have any questions or anything, we'll make sure that always Ashley will see. But definitely go over there and take advantage of this. This is great stuff.
And this will be in the comment below the live episode, so you can just click on it and check it out.
But that's the beauty. The show's always there. So everybody that's watching our replay, always comment. We always watch. And so we always will connect you with Ashley if you want to continue some conversations or contact her directly. Because who knows, we might invite her back. That's our point.
Exactly. All right. So Veronica, what's up?
So let's switch to my actually event that I have tonight. I think that's okay. Yeah, I didn't get to tell you. So I have the Southeast Florida Agile Association event. It's in the captions. I added it this morning. And it is about the little known facts of great problem solving and with mindset and communication. So we're going to talk about these 5 problem skill sets. And it will also talk about how our minds and how we think about things. And so I have some fun little things that I'm going to share. Now, those of you that can't make the meetup tonight, direct message me on my LinkedIn. So that's Veronica Stewart, and I will connect you for the replay.
So I don't have the caption, my dear, here because probably it's not saved, but I will definitely, we get the link, we put it in the comments. So don't forget to check that one out, because I know your events and I know that you're doing a great job.
Everyone. Now, we stream this on LinkedIn on Roxana's profile, but I tell everyone, connect with me on my LinkedIn, so then you always know what I'm doing. I'm there on a daily basis, and you always know what I'm up to. And the same thing with Ashley. We all, like, when all of us get connected, that's the best way to always know what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, we're all there. So come on, connect. Let's have a chat. Okay. So for me, you know what I'm going to say? The Lead for Legacy League. Because, right, we were talking about leadership. And to me, leadership is all about legacy. It's not about hierarchy. So this is a global online program for management and leadership development. It combines online training and group coaching and brainstorming, networking, Q&As, you name it. So we meet weekly, and there are people from different countries and different kinds of industries. And what is absolutely amazing about it is that when it comes to managing themselves and managing others, the challenges are so similar, no matter how different we think we are. And I think this is coming back to empowering differences. This is what happens when you look at how different you are. Sometimes you miss how similar you are. So that's what we do in this league. We help people grow in their management, people skills, leadership skills, so that they can take things back. They can take strategies and all of the good stuff and use them when they go back in their organization or in their team, so that they help their team grow as well. So join us. I'm happy to talk to you. Just connect with me, by the way. Connect on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you're catching this, and let's chat about it. I can tell you more.
And here's something to add on there. Me being in so many different companies through the years, they like to container in a bubble, thinking we're different. We're different than others. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say hogwash. I'm going to tell you that right now. Been to so many companies, you're not that different. Sorry. And that is why it's good. And when we talk about diversity, that divergent thinking and really understanding that you're not so different when you get into a community like this of a bunch of people from different companies. It gives you perspective.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Awesome. It was so great to have you here, Ashley. I think we could have kept going for sure, but I think enough for now. Yeah.
I know, it's amazing because
you have to come back.
We started to realize, where we just first met on the show, that how that connection and our thinking and our desire to want to make the world better, and that similarity, and we approach it in different ways, but almost the same as well. And that's the beauty of it, is that there's so many of us that are ready to push it forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, awesome. So stay tuned for next week. Next week, we're going to talk about why organizational transformation doesn't yield the results that personal transformation does, or something of the sort, because we're still figuring out the title. So stay tuned on that.
Here's the gist. We're basically challenging all the failed transformations in organizations through the years. And we're saying, why don't we look at it a different way when it talks about the individual of what we were talking about today, right? Focusing and you taking the driver's seat. Don't depend on the company to do it for you.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about that next week.
Okay, people, that's it for today. Thanks so much, Ashley, and have a great rest of the week. Bye for now.
Bye.